you are having a direct effect on people, and your impact on the people that work for you is so important. And it could be a great opportunity because you can have a hand in developing them, giving them that trust and that confidence to do their job in their environment, to learn and thrive. And that is something that leaders can offer. And if you are focused on that, you're going to be affecting people that are working through the rest of their professional career. So really take the role seriously, invest in understanding what people want to do, where they want to go with their career, what are some of the challenges they're having day to day, and really listen.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script. But you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Kevin Garabedian. Kevin is Vice President of Business Development and Marketing at Novatech, where he is building and scaling a high-performance business development organization designed to create opportunity at every level. A seasoned sales leader, Kevin views sales as an algorithm, one that, when thoughtfully built and executed, enables consistent and repeatable success. With executive leadership roles at Alteryx, Blue Mantis, NWN Carousel, and PTC, where he oversaw a 150-person global organization, Kevin brings a deep expertise in sales operations, process design, and talent development. He is passionate about promoting from within and creating career paths that unlock growth for both individuals and organizations. Kevin, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Most welcome. Kevin, I'm curious, who is someone from your early life, or it could even be an early experience, that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
Yeah, it's a good first question. About 24 years ago, I moved my life from Massachusetts to North Carolina to take on a role with a company called Identify Software. And my boss at the time was a man by the name of Fred Vicola, who was the VP of Sales for Identify. And we were a very, very small company. And we just got presence in the United States. We're a Tel Aviv-based company. And we had a product that was very complex and very expensive. And nobody else in the market had it. And Fred, as the VP of Sales, took me on to run sales operations and to build an inside sales team. And it was at that point, with that experience working under Fred, that I realized, you mentioned earlier, the algorithm. I realized that when you're building, an inside sales organization, business development organization, or any type of sales organization, it's really, really important to understand what you need to be doing as an organization day to day, week to week, to get your desired result, and what it's going to take to be able to build metrics and sales process and execution to get there. Once you have that, one thing I really learned at Identify is then you can apply the right people and the right training, the right development to go ahead and execute that game plan. And so walking away from that experience and working under Fred, I realized that understanding metrics, understanding sales process, understanding execution is critical, but really, really developing the reps, the management, the leadership to be able to deliver that execution to get the desired results was absolutely paramount within a successful organization. Identify went on to be massively successful, and we had a very positive exit with BMC. And one thing the CEO mentioned, upon announcing the acquisition was the one thing that he brought up very first when he said that, around the success and why this company was bought. The first thing he mentioned was it was based on incredible execution from the sales and business development organization that did an amazing job building a plan building a process, and then bringing in the people and the leadership to execute that process was the number one reason why we were very successful. So I learned at that point that it's important to understand processes. It's really important to understand what you need to be doing day to day from the rep level, the management level, the director levels and above. Understand that, and then you have the right development and the right sales training around it and the right recruiting. You can achieve great results. And I've taken that with me the rest of my career.
Kevin, what does true leadership mean to you? What do you think makes a true leader from your experience?
Yeah. So again, I feel like I've done a great job. I think there's a quality of a leader, sponging and learning from anybody around me, whether they're, a BDR or somebody in marketing or somebody who was my boss. But in this case, I had a boss once tell me that there are three aspects of being a great leader, and it's specific to a sales organization, but this could be true for really any department. And the three things he listed in order were: lead a great culture, develop the leadership, the reps, anybody within the organization, have a very, very governed plan specific to developing them in their day-to-day jobs, but also developing them to do the next thing they might want to do within the organization, and do an amazing job making sure you bring with that culture, with that kind of reputation for developing and promoting within. You can then have, which is the third aspect of this, a great opportunity to recruit some of the best people in the business to come work with you. And if you focus on those three things as a leader, you're going to be very successful. Because I really feel like one thing that gets lost is, especially in sales, is leaders, they tend to look at results, right? They want results. Every single quarter is important. They want to optimize a quarter. They want to get to their number. And it's chasing their tail kind of syndrome. And that if that's all they're doing constantly, they're going to have the same problem at the end of every quarter. And that is, how do I find my way to my quarter and get to my number? And not scaling the organization. So having a people first mentality is so critical, I think, for me as being a leader. And really looking at it, saying, if I can focus on my people, and what I mean by that is being kind of a support structure for them, making sure I'm developing them, making sure I am giving them the answers or giving them the training, the development they need to be doing their jobs day to day, giving them trust to go ahead and make mistakes. And then collectively we learn from them. If I can put my people first, the results will come. And if I can continuously remind myself of that, I feel like I've done that over the past at least 10 years. It took a while to get there, to be honest. But I think once I got there, I saw my leadership qualities go up and my success rate go up because I was developing a very trustworthy, supported, and highly developed team. The results were then much easier to get. And I think that's really important. And the big one, the reason why culture is first, because in my opinion, and I don't know if it's an opinion or it's a fact, if you have a positive culture, and a positive culture to me is a challenging culture, a collaborative culture, a feeling that you're not just being told what to do. You're part of a team. You're part of every decision where you can add your input, your insights, and then fun, right? At the same time, we have, tough jobs in the world of sales, but any department. So you want a culture where people are excited to come to work every day. Because again, you don't want attrition. So you want to make sure that, we're not just here to be all serious all the time. You want to have a fun culture, trustworthy culture, but also, again, going back to that collaboration, I think that's a critical part of it. So you have a great culture. If you're investing in your reps and you're developing them to do their jobs better, but also I think what gets lost is, where do they want to go next? Most employees don't want to just stay in the same job in perpetuity. So I think over the past, again, several years, I've made it a very big part of my role is to understand, where my managers, where my leaders, where my reps, where do they want to go next, and making sure that I have a plan in place to ensure that we are helping develop them to get to that next role.
Can you share about a time when you realized that your way of leading or living no longer met the demands of your work and life and growth was needed?
Yeah, I think every week. I'm constantly learning. and nobody's perfect. And I've been doing this for close to 30 years now. And, I still learn how to do things better. And I still find myself falling into traps of, doing things I know aren't right. And one thing is, it's so easy and it's continuously a growth opportunity for me to just take on the responsibility to get things done. And that can get overwhelming, and I think, for me, it's taking a step back and really trusting the people that work with me to make sure that I give them the autonomy and I give them the authority to also get things done. I think that some of the smartest leaders, that are out there, they're great because of how they leverage the ecosystem and the people around them, not necessarily because they have all the answers. And I think it's very much of a knee jerk is when things aren't going so well. I think a lot of leaders out there just try to fix it on their own, rather than take that step back and realize that this is not an individual sport and we're all kind of part of this, and making sure that we kind of attack this as a team. And I think that's an area that I get myself trapped into. And it can get overwhelming. And when that happens, you get into that quicksand where you're kicking and screaming and you're trying really hard to get out of whatever issues you're faced with, but you just sink a little bit quicker. So growth opportunity for me has always been, recently I've been, really kind of working with this, is making sure that I don't have all the answers and I'm not responsible to have all the answers. We're all a team, and making sure that, I lead with that collaboration I mentioned earlier, and bringing everybody not everybody, but bringing the right people into the conversations and collectively coming up with a plan to go ahead and deal with any issues that we have in front of us.
Yeah. And you talked about, what are the areas that you needed to grow in order to delegate and kind of make sure that you don't get stuck in that quicksand. I'm also curious, what did you have to let go in order to allow for that kind of growth?
I think the feeling that I had to have the answer, right? I think that, a very common thing that a lot of leaders are faced with is everyday challenges. But it doesn't mean that you have to have every single answer to every one of those challenges. And it's okay if you don't. And I think that that's one thing that I continue to try to wrestle with is if I don't have the answer, is to try to figure out, how can I work with my team to give them the ability to learn? Because the more I give them the opportunity to be part of this, the more they're going to be able to figure out these things before they even get to me. I think that if you kind of set a tone as a leader that any and all issues need to be bubbled up to you because you're going to go find the answers, you're going to go solve them, that's when it gets to that overwhelming point. And you're not going to, you kind of teach the person how to fish rather than, provide the fish. If you could teach them how to, work through these issues, and you can work with them to develop them to make, to allow them to find answers, to find solutions, it's going to bring a lot more balance in your life, and you're going to be able to get a lot more done every day because those issues won't be bubbled up to you. So really letting that go, that feeling of I have to answer every question, I have to personally deal with every problem, and taking that step back and figuring out how can I develop my team to take on some of this and give them the trust. And that's going to help build trust from their perspective, as well. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself for your own growth?
Yeah, the world's been interesting the last couple of years, right? And I think you read a lot and you hear a lot about, stress levels and people are working, with high anxiety and, there's a lot of that going on. And and it shouldn't have come down to current times to remind us of this. This should have been something that's been part of every day going back forever. And that's balance, and I think that, one thing that I've learned, especially as I'm getting, to the back nine of my career, is if you have more balance in your life, and balance, I mean, is, work hard, work smart, but there are other things in life that are very important as well. And in my opinion, if you take that balance and keep it very much, into consideration and prioritize that, you're going to be way more effective at your job. And I there's definitely times in my life that got completely lost on me. and it was impactful. I work with a lot of younger professionals. I'm right here with a company called Novatech, and we're a fast growing company, and we're building out this business development organization, as you mentioned at the beginning. And I also have a marketing under me as well. And I'm working with a lot of folks that are newish to marketing, and one thing I am really trying to get them to understand is the more balance you have, the more effective you're going to be at your role. And you may think at a younger age that you have all this energy and all this enthusiasm. You want to work these ungodly hours and work and not think about anything else. Think about 20 years from now, right? And think about, are you going to have that same level of energy? And if you kind of waste it all, with this psychotic view of I have to work 24 hours a day, you're not going to be as effective as you go through your career. So that's the one thing, Jessy, that I think is really lost on people today. And I think that we as leaders, really need to guide that and lead that, and making sure that our teams know that we want to work very smart. We want to be very effective, when we're doing the job. But we also want to make sure that we are doing the things that are important to us as people as well. Because if we can balance those two things, we're going to have longevity in the role. We're not going to have burnout. And everyone that works with us, including ourselves as leaders, we're going to have way more clarity in what we're doing every day because of that balance. And I think that's one area that I think is a big focus to me right now. And it's one thing I'm really working on my team with.
I couldn't agree more that work-life balance and really explaining to people why that balance is so important, right? Thinking more futuristically. I'm also curious, thinking about yourself, where might be areas that you feel are valuable for you to invest in your own growth and development as you think about longevity and work-life balance and other aspects of leadership?
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, and they mentioned this thing called blind spots, and it really kind of made me think a lot and reflect. And this was just yesterday. So, and really, what made me reflect is, I think for me, I've been doing this for a long time, and I think the knee jerk for somebody in my shoes who's been doing it 30 years, 25 years, or even 10 years, you feel like you have all the answers. You feel like you've figured it out. You feel like your way is kind of proven, but that's not necessarily true. And I think for me right now, again, as I kind of get to the last, decade of my career, a growth opportunity for me, and one that I really am focused on today, is to really try to work with the people around me to understand, perspective. And what are some of the things that, maybe I'm not even thinking about that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis that I could either do more of or I could do better. And I think that you just kind of get this assumption as a leader, especially one that's more on the senior side, that you understand what's going on. You've done it. You've been there. You've done it. And you don't realize that you have these blind spots, and because they're blind spots, you don't know you even have them. So I think it's important, and this could be for anybody in any time within their career. It doesn't have to be someone that's been doing it for 25 years. So I think it's important that you get perspective, you get feedback. We had a boss once who would say constantly, feedback is a gift, whether it's good or bad. And in this case, I think this really applies, is really getting perspective and understanding what are some of the things that I could do differently or better that I may not even be thinking about, that could make me more effective. And I think that there is a probable majority of leaders that have been doing for a long time that aren't thinking about that. And I think for me, it kind of opened up my eyes, and I am already started one day later asking for perspective, and trying to figure out, are there some blind spots that I could get acknowledged and address.
What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that I'm the most proud of, doing the roles that I've been doing for decades now, is people that work with me, and watching where they've gone. I had a slide I built for Alteryx once, and it had about 50 LinkedIn profile pictures of people that work with me as a BDR or inside sales quota carrying rep or on the marketing side. And I put them on there not just because they were significantly successful career-wise, but knowing them and knowing what they had dreams of and where they wanted to be within their career, they reached those dreams. And for me, my legacy has always been, the small hand I had in helping somebody that worked with me, moving their career into an area that either A, they were dreaming about and they just loved doing, or B, put them in a financial position that they always dreamed of being in. And that's a legacy that I feel like I continuously try to solidify. And it's the one I'm most proud of. And it's not even close. And it's why I continue doing this type of role that I'm in. And it's why I love doing what I do is really helping and developing. And a lot of the success and a lot of the dream job attainment is 99.9% them. But to say that I had a slight hand in it and I helped in any way is the best part of what I do every day.
Where do you feel most tested right now? Like, what challenges are stretching you the most in leadership in life?
Yeah, I think that, the challenges right now is, I think you're dealing with a lot. I think, again, I don't want to, bring the current culture of society, but there's just a lot of pressure on companies today. It's hard to be successful as a company. There's a lot of obstacles that maybe weren't real just 5 years ago that are becoming more and more real today. So there is this kind of this pressure to be successful, and it's hard. So it's, making sure that, we're not getting completely, kind of blinded by that, and, and making sure we're doing all the things we need to be doing, and overcoming those challenges as a team, and really kind of keep focus on what our day-to-day execution needs to be, to make sure that, some of these pressures out there are not really impacting how we bring our day-to-day efforts in. And, one of the reasons why I joined Novatech when I did just a few months ago is it's an amazing company that we have goals, and we're doing great. But the organization, they do an amazing job making sure that they bring in great people, and they make sure that we are trying to work day to day, and not really look into, what's happening 3 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now. We understand there's a lot of pressure on people today, personally, professionally, and we've done a great job as a company managing that, and really making people feel like they're part of something special, to really kind of overcome some of these obstacles that are real today in today's society. And that's been a big challenge too.
And Kevin, as you think about those challenges, where do you feel you need to, again, grow and develop most in order to meet those challenges?
Yeah, I think that for me, it's, continuously trying to make sure that I'm either sympathetic or empathetic, right? And, understanding that there's stuff going on and we have a job to do and it's important, but at the same time, having empathy, and making sure that, once again, mentioned earlier, if you really focus on your people first, the results will come. And there's a line there, right? We can't just allow the execution to not be where we need to be based on, multiple factors. But at the same time, if you're empathetic, or sympathetic, depending on the situation, and, you're human, I think it helps, again, the culture of the team, specific to the person. It helps them, feel pretty good, and really kind of understand that, we got your back. So, when whatever the situation they potentially are going through, is behind them, they're even that much more motivated to come back with some fire and vinegar and really get things going. And, I think that, again, going through, listening to how other leaders lead and other companies are leading, if you're just so much fixated on the results and that's all you really care about, it's not going to be a long-term success plan for you. Right now, I think attrition is the biggest liability your company faces. And if you lose good people because they just don't feel like they're part of a company that really cares, it's really tough to overcome that. And I think that for me, it's constantly trying to make sure that I'm growing there. I'm getting better, at that balance. And the balance is making sure we got to execute. We got to get to numbers, right? I'm not kind of that type of leader. It's like, oh, nice try. Everybody gets a trophy. But at the same time, I am definitely, trying to, grow and balance and making sure that we are pushing hard and, we're having that sense of urgency to do the things we need to be doing to get to the results we want. At the same time, that's half the focus. The other focus is, am I making sure that culturally speaking, people are feeling really good about coming to work and really happy about the company and the culture? They feel like they're learning every day and developing. And sometimes that gets tilted. So my growth it's going to happen, but my growth is really to limit the amount of time that seesaw is tilted one way or the other. And if you keep that perfect balance, then again, I think that's the growth mentality for me right now is that's going to give you long-term success in the organization, long-term success. And it's really kind of I think the heartbeat of my current company. So it makes it a lot easier. But that's a constant growth opportunity for me, Jessy, to answer your question. And it's one that I am really, really kind of trying to make sure, especially today, with a lot of the pressure that's going on with the current focus, with the current culture of what's happening in the world today, and a lot of things that people are trying to manage, mentally. It's a lot on them, and I'm trying to make sure even more I'm maintaining that balance, because you got to have both, right? You got to be after the numbers, but you can't just be fixated on that. You have to make sure that you're empathetic with the people as well.
So this last question is more of an invitation. So you have this time and space here to offer to our listeners whatever it is that's most in your heart and mind, just feel free to share straight from the heart, anything at all. So take your time. The floor is yours.
Yeah. It's a great question there, and I think that, I guess for me, I've had an amazing journey, and it's not over. But when I look back and I reflect, which I do quite often, what I reflect on and what I've learned is being a leader today is a very, very critical role, and one that needs to be taken very, very seriously. You are having a direct effect on people. And that is something that I don't think a lot of leaders even really reflect on. And if I can leave anything to this conversation, is your impact on the people that work for you is so important. And it could be a great opportunity, and look at it as an opportunity, not a responsibility. It's an opportunity because you can have a hand in developing them. You can have a hand in giving them that trust and that confidence to do their job, and give them the environment to learn and thrive. And that is something that leaders can offer. And if you are focused on that, and it's paramount to your everyday operation, you're going to be affecting people that are working through a career for the rest of their professional career. So really take the role seriously, really invest in understanding what people want to do, where they want to go with their career, what are some of the challenges they're having day to day, and really listen. I think that, again, there are just too many leaders out there, I mentioned earlier, that are just constantly chasing their tail, demanding that reps execute, that people execute at this level, and just saying go, and just telling them they have to do these things. They have to get these numbers. Not enough leaders are investing into developing the plan on how to do it. How do we teach it? How do we develop it? How do we make sure that they have all the tools necessary? They're working in an environment where they can thrive. And I am spending the time to really learn about each and every individual that works with me. What are their career ambitions? And making sure we collectively are putting a plan together to help them get there. They have to earn it. They have to do the things they need to do to get there. They can't just show up and get it. But we should be developing this environment where we're having this massive impact on their career. And if we take our job seriously to that point where we know that we're coming every day and our job impacts people, and these are the things that are really going to impact them the most: building a great culture, allowing them to develop and learn, and seeing where they want to go with their career ambitions and helping them get there. It's just going to be a better working life for the entire corporate America. if we can get most leaders to follow that type of ideology.
Kevin, I appreciate the wisdom that you've shared here with me today. I've gotten so much out of this conversation. There were so many nuggets of insight and perspective. And I'm sure that whoever's listening will benefit equally from what you've shared. Thank you so much for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
I appreciate it, Jessy. Thanks for having me.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.